Now, my first question. You are a famous fighter, but maybe there are some people in Turkey who don't know you. So, could you please tell us about your sports career?
I'm an American fighter, and I started off in jiu-jitsu, and I won the world championship first time in 1999, and I won 6 world championships in jiu-jitsu, and then progressed to MMA fighting, and I've had many fights, like 85 fights, and I lost, but I fought for the heavyweight championship of the world in the UFC, and fought for many organizations, Pride, UFC, ONE FC, like all the big organizations. So.
That's great. Yeah, it's really impressive. Yes, you are a famous fighter, but now you interested in politics also. You are a political man now, and you defined yourself as a communist in your social media and in your speech. So how and why did you decide to get in politics?
I was lucky, really. I remember I was in university, and the first time I ever thought about politics was because I was always, I supported USA. I supported, I just believe everything that the USA did. And I was in a class in university, and one day it was on like social problems and psychology, because I have a doctorate degree in psychology. And at this time, we had a guest professor, and he was from India, and he talked about how inequality was in the world, and some people couldn't afford healthcare or therapy or seeing a psychologist, and how the money would be better spent helping many people. And that's the first time ever I thought, oh, what is this? But the big moment came when I was in Brazil, and I had a fight in Brazil in just outside Rio de Janeiro, and I won this fight, and I was so happy. And at night we drove back to Rio, and it was like maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was walking. I had a beautiful hotel I was staying at, and I was very happy. And I went walking at night. It was warm on the beach, and just by myself and thinking. And I was walking back to the hotel a while later, and at the outside of the hotel, when I was about to come in, I saw this lady, and she was sitting on like a cardboard box, and with her was her son, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and a daughter, maybe 7 or 8 years old. As I approached, they were all sitting on this box. Like, I thought, wow, like it's late at night, 2 or 3 in the morning. It's crazy. And the daughter got up and walked to me and said, please, can I have like some money, like a real, it's like probably 30 cents what she was asking for. And I thought, this is crazy. Like, these children, they didn't do anything wrong. They're living in poverty. And what did I do? I'm staying at this beautiful, maybe 4-star hotel because I'm a fighter. Because how did I earn this? Like, why are there such difference between me and these children and this woman? And from that day on, like I start to think that something's wrong. And I got to travel to many different countries, and Philippines, and different parts of Brazil and Europe, Russia, all over the world, China, Japan. I saw very rich, extravagant lifestyles, and I saw the utmost poverty. Nicaragua, I saw children naked walking on piles of garbage, collecting bottles to try to sell for money. Like I saw like the only kind of poverty that most people see on TV, like on commercials. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there's something wrong with the world. We have to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now you are a Russian citizen, right?
Yeah, now I'm a Russian citizen, yes.
So it's really extraordinary choice to leave from your mother country. How did you decide to leave from USA, and why did you choose Russia?
I like to think Russia chose me. I came here, started about 8 or 9 years ago. I fought Fedor Emelianenko, which is like a massive fight for me at the time. And the fight didn't go well. But afterwards, I got such an outpouring of support from the people of Russia. And I was able to come back many times. I had some more fights here, which were better. I did master classes. I spoke, about politics. And for me, Russia's always had a special place because this is the place, backward Russia, by 1917 were the only in the world, the only social revolution ever took place was in Russia. And so it has kind of an affinity for me, the people here. But, the people, there's soul here. And it's a beautiful place. And I've been all over Russia, Siberia, Sochi, St. Petersburg, Moscow, and down to even Ingushetia, even the Caucasus and everywhere. And the people are very kind and very giving, but it's the people that I fell in love with. And what epitomizes the people here, I believe, is I had a fight in a city called Penza a couple years ago. And I had to come 3 weeks before the fight to advertise for the fight. So I was advertising for this fight and training every day. And they did interviews every day, and they said, "How do you like Penza? How do you like Russia?" I said, "I like it, but I'm sad. I want to be back in USA because my mother, she has cancer. She's very sick, and I want to be with her right now." And it was a hard moment for me to be there. And so after the fight went good, and I had one day of free time, one day just to relax. So I was walking along the city with a guide, a translator, and this man, very old man, maybe 65, 70, comes coming like, Jeff. And I stop, and he comes up, and he says to me through the translator, he's like, "I've been trying to find you for 1 week. They keep coming into your hotel, but they not tell me what room you were in. And because I saw your interview about your mother, and I you will not understand what I'm doing, what I say, but he gives me like a religious icon of like Jesus with Mother Mary, and he said, "This is for your mother, and the people of Russia love your mother." He made this. He made this himself, and he said, "The people of Russia love you," and he said, "All my blessings, all my love to your mother," and it made me cry. And I was like, "Wow." It was a touching moment, and still today makes me cry thinking of this. And but this is like how I think Russia, how I feel about Russia. So.
Yes, yeah, I will get that exactly. But is there any reaction, negative or positive, from your family, your friends, about your
from my family, from my friends, like they support me, but really they not understand like why. Like I love Russia so much, and a lot of what they hear is on the news, and they say, "Man, Russia's bad. Russia doesn't like there's like no freedom, this and that." And but the people who are my friends who have visited Russia do like Russia. But people who are fans mostly don't understand why I like live in Russia and support Russia. Yeah. So.
yeah. How do you see U.S. society? Is there any dynamic against the aggressive state policy? Is there any dynamic in U.S. society? How do you see it?
I think the U.S. society, and it's been a long time. There's really, I mean, first I want to say there's very good people as well in the USA. There's, obviously loving, caring people there. My family there, friends there. But society as a whole in the USA has, it's about it's about wealth. It's about having comfortable life. It's about being successful. Like I like to say is, if you have children in the USA and somebody says, "Hi, how are your children?" You say, "Oh man," like someone my age just say, "Oh, my son, he's so successful. He's going to be a doctor and he's already making money." And oh, my daughter, she has a car and she's got a new house, and or she's married and like she's living in the good part of town, and they're so successful. I'm so proud of them. But you never hear, "Oh, my son, he's such a good man. He has a good heart. He's a very good dad. He loves people. My daughter is so sweet. Her children are wonderful, and she's very supportive and a good person, and she volunteers for the homeless." And you never hear this because that's not what success is. In the USA, society is based on how successful you are. You ask somebody, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm what do they say?" You immediately think, "Oh, they're successful or they're not successful," based on like what they do for work. Say, "Oh, I'm a teacher." You think, "Oh, maybe not so successful." I mean, like they don't make a lot of money, but like maybe they love what they do. But it's just like there's such a judgment about um, who you are based on the income that you make and your success in society. And like a lot of it's the media, a lot of it's the representatives and in government, but a lot of it's the culture as well. And there's they talk about the American dream. The American dream is like success, success, success. It's not anymore. It's not about family. It's not about giving. It's not about supporting one another. It's about success for me, only for me. Success being like the champion, being wealthy or whatever. And so it's very difficult. And that's why in the USA there's so many. I was in psychology. There's so much suicides, depression, people taking drugs to try to, because they're anxious. And this because society is brutal. If you're not successful, or just even you are successful, but the pressure to be successful, like the constant media pressure from your family and friends and school and your from everyone around you, your boss, you got to be the best, or you got to be successful. And it's so much to take. You're under pressure constantly your whole life. So
So what about U.S. policy? How do you evaluate the U.S. Foreign policy that threat all the world with sanctions and military forces in Iran, in Latin America, Venezuela, Bolivia, with coup attempts in Cuba? How do you evaluate?
This is what I talk to my friends, my wife about all the time. I was just talking last night. You know, there's two parts to this. One is what you just described the U.S. does. The U.S., especially in Latin America, now they're doing like like with Iran, they did with Iraq, Afghanistan. Um, they control by before they tried military. If military doesn't work, like in the Cold War, it was military, military, military. Now that the Cold War is over, it's much more difficult. You have to have a reason. So in Iraq, they created a reason. It was lies, weapons of mass destruction, lies, lies, lies. In Afghanistan, it was Bin Laden, but it was never about Bin Laden. And then we knew that they didn't have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq as well. It was based on lies, and 1.5 million people died. And the U.S. doesn't even offer an apology. Like, not, "Oh, sorry, we didn't find weapons of mass destruction." It's like, no, it's freedom. But it's not freedom, because we've installed leaders in Afghanistan and Iraq. And now we're doing the same with Iran. Now we can't militarily go invade Iran because there's not a reason. Iran hasn't done anything to a point where we can invade them. So now we using sanctions, like you said. And these sanctions have killed hundreds of thousands of people, because Iran, as much oil as they have, they can't even sell it on the market, on the global market, and the people are literally starving. In Latin America, all this is well known. In Latin America, of course, we run it like these are our own puppets, these countries and the leaders, and we sanction them and we threaten their leaders. If you want to stay in charge, then you got to play the United States rules, and it's crazy. Like we can sell them our produce or our things, and with no tariffs. And so it basically undermines their entire economy. And so their once thriving, self-sustaining country like Guatemala, like Honduras, now depends on the U.S. because they can't even sell their own produce there because because it's too expensive, because the United States pours in cheaper things, and of course there's tariffs when we buy their gifts or their produce and their exports. So we control South America, we control Central America and the United States. And if you don't play ball, like example in Venezuela, Bolivia, we conduct coups, and we just say, so this is the first part, what we do. The second part is the ideology behind it. We say, oh, we're spreading democracy. Well, what is democracy? Democracy is everybody has equal rights. Well, this is not the case. On these governments that we're pushing through, that we're pushing out these leaders, they have been democratically elected, and we're pushing leaders that are only going to support the United States. So in this way, we definitely don't support democracy. The United States just put another ban on 7 more Muslim countries, only Muslim countries, like Yemen, for example, Sudan, and these people are not allowed to travel to the United States. They can't travel to the US because we say, oh, there could be terrorists, they could threaten us. However, 7 of these countries, 6 of them, the United States sells arms to. 6 of these 7 countries, we sell bombs, missiles, tanks, guns, et cetera, to. So if we are really scared about them threatening the United States, coming here and being terrorists or doing these things, why would we sell them weapons? Like, it doesn't make sense. So just the hypocrisy, the untruths, the United States is an empire. I'm sorry, I'm ranting a little bit, but the United States is an empire. And the second part is, like I said, the first part is what we do. The second part is how we're perceived. Many people in the world perceive the United States as how it is. It's an empire, an evil empire that's controlling the economies, using the dollar, and its military might to control other countries, control their economies, and control the livelihood of their people. And the United States, we have military bases surrounding Russia, and we peg Russia as the big, the evil empire, and it's got to be scared. But we have 30 military bases directly surrounding Russia. If Russia were to put a military base in Canada or Mexico, we wouldn't have it for 1 second. Absolutely not. They wouldn't allow it. But it's American exceptionalism. We can do what we want. American hypocrisy. Don't do as I say, not as I do. And it's frustrating, and almost all American people don't understand this. I don't think we know American people and the public doesn't understand what the United States is doing right now, and Central South America has for 100 years. And what it does, they just hear, oh, Iran's bad, Iraq's bad, these Muslims in these countries are bad. And so the United States has to go police these countries using its military. But, all these refugees, like that we're talking about, all the millions of refugees in the Middle East. Why are they refugees? Because we killed the CIA. We got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. We invaded Iraq. We invaded Afghanistan. We've bombing Syria. We're in the United States right now. Today is bombing 7 different countries. 7 different countries. And it's crazy. Like, it's like we're constantly at war, constantly pushing for our influence for economic reasons only. And sorry, a very long-winded answer, but this is what's
It's really
happening.
Answers.
Yeah.
So I saw some of your shares in social media in your Twitter account about the Palestinian people. So how do you evaluate? What do you think about the peace plan of Trump and Israel? They called it the deal of the century.
Really, it's a joke. It's not real. I mean, the Palestinian, you can't have a peace brokered without all the parties being involved in it. So it's a joke. I'm very, I'm very outspoken about, my daughter, my young daughter, she went to a Jewish temple school for 3 years, and I have friends who are Jewish, and this is not about Judaism, and even the rabbi of the temple, I talked many times to him about these issues, and he said, like, the policies by Netanyahu, by the right wing governments in Israel does not. He goes, I don't even think they believe in God, and they're Zionists, because Judaism is not about taking other people's land. It's not about killing. It's not about in the Torah, it specifically says that you have to be kind to other people. You cannot kill. You have to be loving. You have to put God one. Like, all these things that the leaders of Israel, like, say, oh, we want this for the Jewish people. They don't want it for the Jewish people. They want it for the Zionists. And imagine it, you have for thousands of years, 2,000-3,000 years, people living on this land. And all of a sudden, one day, they have to partition the land, and they take almost 2/3 of it when the British gave it over in the UN. And then 700, all these refugees from Europe, and I feel for many of these Holocaust survivors and many Jewish people who were treated so badly in Europe, come over and they make their home in Palestine. But 750,000 Palestinians who've been living there for centuries and centuries have to leave their home in one day. One day, you just created a whole new line of refugees. Now there's millions of Palestinian refugees, and Israel's taken their land. I don't even call it apartheid, because apartheid that, like, was in South Africa, was at least it wasn't just and it wasn't fair, but there wasn't so much killing. In Gaza, it's an absolute, it's genocide. I mean, there's 2 million people living in Gaza, and the water's not drinkable. They're not letting in medical supplies. They're not letting anything out. They don't even let them more than 50 meters off the coast to go fish. They can't even fit. There's no way to survive. The UN even says in 2020, this year, it goes, this place is unlivable. So you have 2 million people living in an unlivable place, and Israel only allows the exact amount of calories needed to sustain, not to thrive, but just not to starve to death. The water, they're poisoning them with water. They're bombing them. It's genocide. It's exactly what it is, genocide. And on the West Bank, this is more of an apartheid action. There's separate roads, there's separate, housing, there's separate this. All the water, the good water and the good agricultural places are for settlers. Like, if I'm Jewish, I can go right now. I can fly to Israel, show my passport, show my documents, and go to the West Bank, and I can kick out some family that's been living in a home maybe for 100 years. So their family's been living there for 500 years or 1,000 years. I can kick out this family and just say, oh, I'm Jewish. I've lived in America my whole life, but I'm Jewish, and now I'm gonna make this my home, and you guys are now refugees and you're homeless. Like, and it's the law. It's legal. It's like, where in the world can this happen? You know, why? How can this happen? And so the peace plan basically is a payoff. They expected the leaders of Palestine to take this $40 billion and just give up everything for this money for themselves. But even as bad as the PLO is, and I think their leaders are not the best, even they didn't accept this peace plan because they know the Palestinian people would never take a payoff for money to give up their birthright, their land. You know, and even in the UN, when they were given a charter, joined the UN in 1949.
They already said they didn't accept that. Yeah.
Yeah, in 1949, when they joined the UN, they, under the conditions that they, one, followed the UN Charter, which they haven't done, and number two, that the Palestinian people who were kicked out of their homes would be allowed to come back. They, both these conditions have never been met.
Yes. So we have last questions. They are more personal, if you accept.
Yeah.
You said you have a wife and you are also discussing these issues with your wife.
Yes.
Is she Russian or American or?
She's Russian, and she has no interest in talking to these issues with me. Quite honestly.
I'm wondering about, does she support you?
She supports me in a way that she understands it's important to me, so she supports what I do, but she doesn't understand it, and she doesn't get into it. She doesn't want to talk with me about politics. So.
So you are also an older man in Russia, the council membership of city. So what's your plan? What's your plan politics? And I'm also wondering about if you continue to fighting.
Yeah. Well, my plan in politics now, I'm in the city of Krasnogorsk where I am now. I'm like city, like they call it deputat. So I'm like a city council person. In 2 years, I would like to be in the Federal Duma, in the main Duma, and be able to, what we call like a Duma member, a deputat, but it's like in the U.S. it'd be like a senator or a congressman. I just want to have the ability to make a lot of social programs. I want to, right now I'm working with people who have been lost their apartments here because of some unethical builders, and so my plan is to try to help them. The federal government is helping, and I want to support this. I want to work with people who are homeless. I want to work with pensioners, and of course I want to work with children, working with sports with children, people who are orphanages, and this is very important to me. As far as fighting, right now I'm planning on, I had a major surgery and now I'm fully recovered, and I'm planning on doing the world championship this year in jiu-jitsu again. And it's very I can't give it up. I just want to keep this, and I understand it's for myself, and this is like something, I guess, selfish that it's hard to let go of, but I really want to push myself. And I feel very blessed because I have these abilities and I have the opportunity and training to do something I love. And I've seen, like I said, like in Brazil or some other countries, some people, some kids that would love to have the opportunity to fight or do jiu-jitsu or be in the same place. So I have these opportunities. I was lucky, I was blessed. Yes, and these people don't have this opportunity. So I feel like I owe it to them, owe it to myself to, since I'm healthy enough to do it until I can't.
That's great. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, it's really important for us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.